Ever wonder what it's really like to work for Doctors Without Borders? Beyond the headlines.
It's definitely more than what meets the eye.
We're going deep on that today, digging into the human side of MSF.
Oh, we've got an awesome guide for that.
Oh, yeah.
Ludovic Jox's The Sense of Practice. It's a doctoral thesis, 2019.
Okay.
Packed with insights. We're focusing on chapters 8, 9, and 10, all about expat experiences.
So this isn't just like the logistics of aid work. We're talking about the actual people.
Exactly. And Joxy uncovers how, those unspoken expectations, the stuff nobody tells you going in, it can literally make or break an MSF experience.
It's like the difference between acing a job on paper and actually feeling fulfilled by it.
That's a great way to put it. And Joxy found those two don't always match up.
Interesting. Okay, let's get into it. So Joxy starts by dividing MSF expats into two main groups. You ready for this?
Okay, lay it on me.
He calls them professionals, DAS in the thesis lingo, and idealists, or DI.
Catchy, right?
It is.
But labels aside, the key is how differently these groups approach MSF. It's like they're starting their journeys from different points on the map.
Totally. So tell me, what makes a professional different from an idealist walking through MSF doors?
Well, professionals often arrive with a seasoned perspective, I think doctors, nurses, logisticians, folks with on-the-ground experience already.
Got it.
So MSF, for them, it's a step up, like a high-stakes environment to really apply their honed skills.
So they're driven by career goals, wanting to, excel in their field.
Exactly. Idealists, on the other hand, might come from more diverse backgrounds. I mean, imagine lawyers, artists, recent grads, individuals driven by this deep-seated urge to make a tangible difference.
Joxy describes it as giving their life meaning.
Yeah.
That's powerful. They're putting their lives on pause, careers, relationships, even safety for this cause.
And that dedication, as inspiring as it is, Jox argues, can be a double-edged sword, They might have, sky-high expectations of themselves and of MSF, which can lead to some unexpected outcomes.
That's what I'm really curious about. How do those expectations, those different mindsets, actually play out in the field?
Well, Jox uses the term frame of reference. It's basically the lens through which these aid workers experience their work. And it varies dramatically between idealists and professionals.
Okay, I'm hooked. Break down this frame of reference for me. How does it actually, shape their experiences on the ground?
Okay, so imagine this. Idealists often view things globally, right? They see the vastness of suffering worldwide, and they're comparing MSF's efforts to this enormous need.
Yeah.
It can lead to a sense of, well, MSF has resources, shouldn't they be doing more?
So they're holding MSF to this, really high standard, measuring it against, this ideal vision of what aid should be.
Precisely. And that can be hard. They might see, inefficiencies in resource allocation or be overwhelmed by the sheer scale of global issues. It can be disheartening when reality clashes with those initial ideals.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do professionals, with their more grounded perspective, how do they experience that same reality?
Professionals tend to have a more localized frame of reference, they're focused on the immediate impact of their work within their assigned project.
Okay.
Did they treat X number of patients successfully? Is the supply chain running smoothly? Tangible achievements fuel their sense of accomplishment.
They're focused on what they can control, on making a difference within their reach.
Exactly. And Jox found professionals from under-resourced settings are often impressed by MSF's relative abundance, leading to higher satisfaction. It's all about perspective.
It's fascinating how two individuals, both dedicated to the same cause, can have such different experiences based solely on their outlook.
Absolutely. And it gets even more interesting because Jox argues that these expectations and perspectives, they aren't static,
Oh,
They actually shift over time through this process of socialization within MSF.
It's like adapting to a whole new culture.
Yeah.
Within the humanitarian world. So how does this reverse culture shock play out for idealists and professionals? Tell me more.
Yeah.
So we've got idealists potentially going through some soul searching as they adjust to the realities of aid work. What about the professionals? Do they experience this socialization process differently?
Oh, absolutely. For professionals, it's less about, shattering illusions and more about expanding their worldview.
Okay.
As they gain experience, maybe climb the ranks within MSF, they start grappling with the bigger picture, the ethical and political complexities surrounding humanitarianism.
It's like their initial narrow focus starts to widen, and they're seeing how their specific skills fit into a much larger, more intricate system.
Yeah, precisely. Those seemingly technical decisions they make, they begin to understand the far-reaching consequences, how those choices ripple outward. And Jacques argues that this evolving understanding has a huge impact on their trust in MSF.
That's interesting, because you wouldn't necessarily think of trust as being central to this whole experience. But it makes sense, right? You're putting your faith in an organization to use your skills effectively,
right,
to uphold its values in really difficult situations.
Exactly. And most expats, regardless of their type, they begin with this high level of trust in MSF. They've heard the stories, they've seen the impact, they're drawn to the organization's principles. But how that trust evolves, well, that's where the paths of idealists and professionals, they diverge again.
Okay, so walk me through this. How does trust play out differently for these two groups?
So idealists, with their strong sense of moral purpose, they might experience a crisis of trust when they encounter situations that clash with their expectations. They might question MSF's decisions, its priorities, even its methods. They came in wanting to make a difference, but suddenly they feel powerless to influence real change.
And that can be a real blow, I'm giving everything to this cause, but are my values actually being reflected in the work being done?
That's the heart of it. Jacques even shared this story, right, about an idealist who became so disillusioned with MSF's, bureaucratic limitations that they left to start their own NGO. They needed a different path to stay true to their initial ideals.
Wow, that's dedication. Okay, so if idealists are more prone to these crises of trust, what about professionals? How do they typically navigate this aspect of this MSF experience?
It's interesting. For professionals, that initial trust in MSF is often strengthened over time as they gain a deeper understanding of the organization's inner workings. They see the complexities firsthand, the tough choices, the necessary trade-offs that are just part of doing humanitarian work.
So it's not that professionals are naive, but they develop a more nuanced view. They see the good with the bad and still find reasons to believe in the mission.
Exactly. They're not wearing rose-colored glasses. They're seeing the shades of gray inherent in this work. And that nuanced understanding, it can actually deepen their commitment to MSF. Right. They feel more integrated into the culture, like they're part of something bigger than themselves, which reinforces their trust.
It sounds like both idealists and professionals go through this process of figuring out where they fit within the larger framework of MSF. It's not just about the work itself, but about navigating these internal shifts in perspective, in trust, even in their sense of power.
That's a brilliant observation, and you've hit on a key aspect of Jacques' thesis. He argues that these dynamics of trust, expectations, socialization are deeply intertwined with how aid workers perceive their own power and influence within MSF.
So it's about finding their place within the hierarchy, understanding where their contributions fit into the bigger picture.
Exactly. And this plays out differently for idealists and professionals. Remember how we talked about idealists coming in with a strong sense of moral authority, that belief in their own agency to affect change? Well, that can lead to disillusionment when they encounter the limits of their power within a large organization.
They're hitting a wall, realizing they can't single-handedly fix every problem, even if they deeply believe in the cause.
Exactly. And that can be incredibly frustrating for them. It's what's the point of all this passion, all this sacrifice, if I can't actually make a real difference?
So they're grappling with feeling powerless even within an organization dedicated to empowering others.
It's a paradox. And how they reconcile that internal conflict, whether they find a way to align their values with the realities of working within a larger system, that can determine their long-term satisfaction with MSF.
And for professionals, how does this sense of power or lack thereof play out for them?
For professionals, it's often less about grappling with powerlessness and more about finding fulfillment in gradually gaining influence within the system.
Okay.
They see themselves as valuable contributors, playing their part to ensure the machinery of humanitarian aid keeps running. They derive satisfaction from doing their job well, even if it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
So they're less likely to feel stifled by the organization structure.
Exactly. In fact, many professionals find that their understanding of power within MSF becomes more nuanced over time. What might have felt like a minor role in the beginning can transform into a position of significant influence as they gain experience and expertise.
So instead of feeling powerless, they're experiencing a sense of like growing agency. Their contributions become more impactful as they ascend within the organization.
Precisely. And Jock suggests that this sense of professional growth, of seeing their efforts translate into tangible results within the system, is a key factor in their long-term satisfaction with MSF.
It's fascinating how these two groups, starting from such different points, navigate the same complexities of humanitarian work. It seems like finding that sweet spot, that balance between personal purpose and the realities of working within a large organization is crucial for anyone considering a career in this field.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about aligning your internal compass with the organizational map, so to speak. And that alignment can take many forms depending on your individual motivations and experiences.
So it's not about erasing those individual differences, those unique perspectives that idealists and professionals bring to the table, but about understanding how those differences influence their journey within MSF.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that there are many paths to making a difference in the world. And MSF, with its complex structure and global reach, offers a diverse landscape for individuals to, find their own way.
This deep dive has been incredibly insightful. We've explored the unspoken expectations of aid work, delved into the contrasting mindsets of idealists and professionals, and uncovered how their experiences are shaped by factors like trust and power. But I'm curious, Jock's research focuses specifically on MSF. Do you think these same dynamics play out in other humanitarian organizations?
That's a great question, and one that I think deserves further exploration. While Jock's findings provide valuable insights into the inner workings of MSF, it's essential to consider whether these dynamics are unique to this organization or if they reflect broader trends within the humanitarian sector.
So while this deep dive has given us a lot to think about regarding MSF, it's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to understanding the complexities of aid work on a global scale.
Precisely. And that's what makes this field so fascinating and so challenging. It's a constant process of learning, adapting, and finding ways to align our own aspirations with the realities of working to create a more just and equitable world.
It really makes you think,
It does.
about what it really takes to work in this field.
Yeah, it's not glamorous.
Not at all.
And Jock's work really just sort of peeled back the layers of MSF. You see these inner workings, these human elements that often get, I think, overlooked.
Correct.
It's not just about delivering aid. It's about navigating this complex interplay of expectations and trust and just finding your place within a larger system.
It highlights something I think so crucial for anyone who's even considering dipping their toes in humanitarian work.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is paramount.
Big time.
Before you pack your bags,
Yeah.
ask yourself, why am I doing this?
Huh.
What are my non-negotiables? What am I hoping to gain?
Yeah.
What am I willing to sacrifice?
Setting those realistic expectations, right?
Yeah.
Knowing the path might be rocky. It's not about losing your idealism.
Right.
But it's about preparing for those, inevitable bumps along the way.
Your humanitarian work is messy and complex by nature.
Oh, yeah.
There will be moments of doubt, frustration, even disillusionment.
Of course.
That's natural.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
It's what we talked about with those idealists, that initial shock when reality doesn't match their idealized vision. Yeah. But here's the thing. Those who thrive in this field, they're the ones who can adapt, who find fulfillment in those smaller victories, in knowing they're contributing to something meaningful, even if it's just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
So being comfortable with, like you said, those nuances.
Yeah.
The shades of gray. It's not always black and white.
Exactly. Embrace those complexities.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. That's key. And, remembering that it's okay to ask for help, to lean on colleagues or mentors, especially during those inevitable, moments of doubt.
That support system is so crucial because it's not a weakness to admit you need help, especially in a field as demanding as this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like recognizing we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And this process of learning and adapting, finding your place within a larger organization while staying true to yourself, it's ongoing. It's not a destination. It's a journey.
This deep dive has been really eye-opening, to say the least. Jock's work, focusing on MSF, it makes you wonder, though, do these same dynamics, these same challenges and rewards, do they exist in other humanitarian organizations as well?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
While Jock's research gives us this fascinating glimpse into MSF, it begs the question, are these dynamics universal to the humanitarian sector as a whole? Do other organizations grapple with those same tensions between individual purpose and organizational structure? Do they provide those same opportunities for growth and impact, regardless of whether you're a seasoned professional or a passionate idealist? It's something for all of us to kind of consider, whether we're, drawn to a career in this field or just, want to better understand, the forces that shape our world.
Makes you realize that the world of humanitarian aid, much like our world itself, is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And understanding those nuances, those individual journeys within a larger cause is, I think, essential for, creating a more effective and sustainable future for everyone involved.
Well said. And on that note, looks like we've reached the end of our deep dive for today.
This is great.
But, the conversation doesn't have to stop here.
Exactly.
Hopefully this has, sparked some reflections, some new insights, maybe even some burning questions about, these unspoken expectations of aid work and the individuals who, dedicate themselves to this challenging but ultimately rewarding field.
And we'll be back next time with another deep dive into a topic that's shaping our world. But until then, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep striving to make a difference.